Okay, thanks for joining us. We're changing things up a little bit. We usually record these Friday mornings, but Paul is going skiing. So here we are in the evening, which is kind of fun because I feel like more people can watch in the evening.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll join us as we chat about this stuff. So tonight we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, because we haven't been together in 4 days, and
Yep.
4 days.
I know.
4 days is a year in this campaign.
I know. So let's do our proper introductions.
Okay.
So I am Kristen Howerton. I blog at Rage Against the Minivan.
And I'm Paul Martin. I blog at Paulosophia.
And I'm a Democrat. Paul is a Republican.
Yes.
And we have been friends for a long time, and we have been friends who talk politics for a long time, and we somehow managed to talk peaceably, despite coming from very different philosophical sides. So we weekly have a conversation about the election.
Yeah.
So what do we want to start with?
Wow. So, we were talking earlier. One of the things that's unique, I'm going to hit the volume real quick. We felt a bit last month that Trump is dominating our conversation, and we've formally, at least I've gotten off the air saying, "Oh man, we talked about Trump too much again." But today we decided that whether Trump drops out tomorrow, whether Trump wins the nomination on the Republican side or becomes president, he's going to be in the history books because this is probably the most unique election in the history of our country because of Donald Trump. And so we're not going to apologize, right? That's kind of our idea.
Yeah, we've just decided it is what it is.
Right.
And talking about Trump, it's unavoidable. And I think Trump is such a Trojan horse for the issues that are kind of plaguing our country right now. So to not talk about it is to ignore this sort of unearthed issue that has been dropped in the lap of society.
Right. So in a sense, we kind of want to apologize if it seems like we're talking about Trump too much, but it's really not Trump. It's the issues that are being raised.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to get into
them.
It's
this social dynamic of having someone like this be such a frontrunner.
Yeah. And I think what's also difficult for me on the right as a Republican is that, I had a few people say, well, you and Kristen just agree all the time. But if this was a more traditional election and Trump wasn't in it, I think there'd be a lot more disagreement. But obviously, the whole dynamic is that Trump is the target of 70% of the Republicans in this country, including the Speaker of the House, in a sense, it's made this dialogue unique.
Well, and to back up for a second and defend you against those accusations, I'm a socialist, full-on socialist. Paul is not. Philosophically, we completely disagree on government.
Yeah.
At its core.
Yeah, at its core.
Paul wants a smaller government. I want a larger government. I want the government to sort of run everything, and you want them to be hands-off. So, I think you're absolutely right. If this were a traditional election with a reasonable and rational Republican at the helm, we would be disagreeing quite a bit more.
Right. And so we're just going to lean into the uniqueness of somebody like Trump that is telling us that all Muslims basically are terrorists, and women, it's okay if they're grabbed and yanked and bruised, and all these other issues that we're going to get into here soon.
Well, let's get into it. So this week, we've got, it's so funny because we were just saying last Friday, which was, 5 days ago, here we were talking about Wifegate, where he was insulting Ted Cruz's wife, and now we've got his campaign manager. What in the world?
Yeah, and what strikes me is in this recent event is...
Well, tell us what it was.
Okay, so Trump is being pursued in a very normal way by a reporter from a conservative online magazine, and she was coming up to him, and his campaign manager, the head of his whole campaign, you probably saw the video, but grabs the surveillance camera, grabs her, and yanks her back by the arm. Trump went on immediately and said she was never touched, they tried to smear her, they tried to shame her, and only because she didn't get an apology, she went and pressed charges, and the police department picked it up for what's called simple battery. But you just can't go around grabbing people.
And this is filmed.
It's filmed. At first it wasn't, and Trump didn't know that it was out, and so he came out on Twitter and said, I don't know who she is, she was never touched. Well, he didn't know that there was a video.
Oops. Yeah, film everything. Well, and what's interesting too about this, is that numerous minorities have been manhandled at Trump rallies, but you've got a conservative white woman, and now there's outrage, which is, some privilege in and of itself. But nonetheless, he's in some hot water.
Yeah, he is. And what is striking again about this situation, and this is what really gets me, okay? So putting a politician's hat on, all he has to say is, I saw the video, that was so inappropriate.
Yes.
Distance
himself from
Distance himself, or even say that, Lewandowski is a good man with 4 kids. It was a moment, and he just didn't really know who she was. And just do yourself a favor, but he has gone on the intense aggression against her. And I saw him on Anderson Cooper last night. And she did exaggerate a bit. She did say, I think at some point, like she almost fell to the ground. And when you see the video, she didn't. But that's not the point.
Right.
The point is, his campaign manager grabbed a woman and yanked her, and she has bruises, and that is battery by definition.
But, again, you've got, him showing his true narcissistic colors. It's a narcissist who cannot apologize.
Absolutely.
Even when all evidence points to something was wrong.
Yeah.
And that you're just going to double down, which is what he always does.
Yeah.
Doubles down.
He doubles down, and I think that's the point. Given the choice of something that's strategic, something that is right, something that is taking the higher road, and the opportunity to speak to women and say, look, I do not condone any kind of domestic violence whatsoever, any kind of... Instead, his ego won't let him.
And it's like, I think it's interesting because he's not even good at politics and diplomacy, because a politician would distance themselves from the person.
Right.
I never liked him anyway.
Right.
I'm not surprised. He had a politician would play the diplomacy, and he can't even do that.
No.
He's such a...
Yeah, and yesterday he kept bringing up this phrase that he loves, political correctness, and he has brought that term to such new lows that nowadays, according to him, if one stands up and says, hey, you grabbed a woman and bruised her arm, your campaign manager did, and you didn't denounce it, it's now considered politically correct by his new definition to disavow something like a crime.
I know, right? And I'm really troubled by this whole trend of political correctness being something lame, something dumb. I mean, why would we not want to use kind language or be inoffensive in the way that we refer to people? Like, I'm really troubled by this whole, like, I don't have to be politically correct.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, like, I don't have to be kind.
Right.
I don't have to be honest.
Right. But someone very smart in his campaign knows that term was something that was, the domain of the left. It was the property of the left.
Yeah.
And so by just saying anybody who speaks against me is just being politically correct, you have 30% of the population saying, yeah man, it's a 3-ring circus.
I know. Well, let's turn our sights really quick to the other side.
Okay.
Because there's a little circus over, I will admit, on my party as well. Wasn't a good look for us this week. So Hillary's camp came out and said she will not debate him in New York City because they don't like the tone of Bernie's campaign. And apparently they're upset that he has been running negative ads, which, I don't know. I mean, I feel like when you're running against another person, at some point you have to point out some policy differences. Personally, and full disclosure, I'm a Bernie Sanders fan, but personally, I think he's been extremely kind and diplomatic to her throughout this. But I do think he's bringing up some points that need to be made, which is the money she's taken from big business. But she got a ton of pushback, especially on Twitter. There was a whole hashtag created called "Tone Down for What," which is very creative. Whoever thought of that, very funny. But
what is it?
Tone Down for What? There's a song called "Turn Down for What."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, slang pop culture.
Thank you.
I'll play it for you later. So anyway, I mean, there was a lot of pushback because there were some sound bites where she said, someone should be ready to debate anytime, any place.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember that.
And now, she's saying she doesn't like his tone. And it's like, well, what's she going to do then if she's the candidate and has to debate Trump? I mean, you've got to be able to defend your position publicly, regardless of the tone.
Yeah. I happen to think that Bernie Sanders is a remarkable orator. I saw him a week and a half ago on the town hall, and I just sat stunned with his effectiveness. I do think it's a populist message myself, but I mean, for an old white Jewish kind of crotchety New Englander or from Vermont or whatever, I think right, Vermont. Just his skill is phenomenal, and the conviction for which he speaks, which is why 80% of his younger people, Democrats, are supporting him. But I think Hillary would have Trump for lunch in a debate. I think Sanders is much more problematic for her myself, because he just doesn't have the baggage. I mean, here's the deal with Sanders, and this is the spirit of politics that I love. Sanders said early in his campaign, no matter what, I will not bring up the emails. I will not bring up...
Right, which he hasn't.
He hasn't. He has taken the high road, like John Kasich has. He has said, there is no way I'm going to go after her character.
Right.
He might have said something like, I have my own suspicions, but they have no business in this campaign. I'm going to talk about issues. I'm going to talk about policy. I'm going to talk about what I'm for. And we have come so low from that kind of standard because of Donald Trump.
I agree, and I really think, the fact that he hasn't brought up some of these things that could be very damning for her makes her look petty when she won't debate him.
Interesting.
Because, he has, I think, taken the high road on a lot of things that he could have really, thumbed her on. Yeah. So, I don't know. But I also think it's interestingly timed after him sweeping 3 primaries.
Right, and he's won the last 5 out of 6.
Yeah.
So there's still, all the experts don't think he has much of a chance, but gosh, I mean, who would have thought?
I know.
Again, he was ahead by, I think, 60 points when they started. 60. It was just some name of some independent socialist. Who would have ever thought?
But we said the same thing in that last election with Obama and Hillary. Yep. He came up from behind. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
What else? What else happened this week?
So we had Wifegate, we had Yankgate. So what about Trump today saying that women, that there has to be, Trump went on Chris Matthews and said that women that get abortions illegally, I'm pro-life, but I'm gracious in my pro-life. I'm like the Pope. I'm for all kinds of life. No capital punishment. Don't torture animals. I don't think we should kill anything. Except in just war theory, that's a different issue. But Trump literally said that women need to be punished for illegal abortions.
Was it illegal abortions or multiple abortions?
Illegal abortions.
Okay, that they need to be punished. For that.
Women need to be punished. And again, I mean,
isn't an illegal abortion punishment enough?
Yeah, abortion that's against the law or whatever. But again, to this misogynistic part of Donald Trump, not immediately, but within a few hours, he came out and tried to clean up and said that it's a state's issue, and I mean, he was getting hammered from both pro-abortion and anti-abortion groups, saying, "What do you mean you're going to punish women?" Because the pro-life groups have tried to distance themselves from the burning abortion clinic, blowing up abortion clinic radicalism. But the point again is this misogyny, where on the heels of this reporter getting yanked, and now he's saying to women, you need to be punished for, the very difficult choice of having an abortion.
This guy does not like women, and he cannot hide it.
Yeah.
He can't hide it.
Yeah. There seems to be, I mean, maybe the word stalker is too strong, but I'm trying to think of a better word. It almost seems like an obsession. Yeah. If it's not Megyn Kelly, who he's literally going after, she's a good reporter. She asked great questions and was fair, but they were tough questions. She's a great journalist. It just seems like every day or two, he has to go after. If it's not Carly Fiorina, then it's, and close to 70% of women have an unfavorable view of him. But it's just getting creepy.
I agree. There was a really funny YouTube video of women saying they will no longer sleep with or date men who are Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Melissa Strata.
It makes you want, it just makes, there's just a new low.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's adolescent. It just, there's a creepiness that I'm starting to feel because of the recklessness that's going on. And 3 months ago, there was one level of it. Yeah. But at this point, it's almost becoming comical in a creepy way.
I know.
Like, are we all kidding? Is this really happening?
Is this really happening? Are we being punked?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If it was just Trump, it could be an ugly joke. You've got a large portion of America voting for him.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's not us being punked. People agree with this misogyny.
Yeah, they do. But my guess, and please don't, but I think he's going down. I think last night he said he played the victim, and he said that he's not going to support the nominee. That's a new.
That was a big thing.
That was big
because didn't they all sort of sign?
They all signed
a clause that said they would support,
yes.
And then it seemed like the others were backtracking too.
Yeah, Kasich and Cruz kind of dodged the question in a very clever way. Trump flat out said,
"He's not going to.
I don't care anymore," and he used this phrase with Anderson Cooper last night. He said, I just think I'm being treated very, very unfairly. This is really classic, because here's the big tough guy saying, I'm treated unfairly.
And here's the thing. This guy is such a drama creator. I think if there was a contested convention or something happened so that his loss was not abundantly clear, I think he would instigate gleefully riots and drama. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And would just enjoy it and sit back and watch it.
It'll be interesting to see, because I firmly believe a lot of people way smarter than me disagree, but I do not think he's going to get the nomination. I think the powers that be on the Republican side, I mean, just almost across the board, there is such a repulsion and a sense that this guy has hijacked the Republican Party because of the rules of these conventions. I don't even think he's going to get to 1237, and if he doesn't...
But Paul, you're saying you think Hillary's going to get it. But Trump's not? He's got a higher lead than she does right now.
No.
Who's going to...
But he can't. But she's going to get the delegates. He's not going to get the delegates. I don't think he's going to get to 1237. And once he doesn't, already some of the pledged delegates and I know this gets real kind of... But, basically, they need 1,237 people to say Donald Trump. Yeah. And even some of the ones who are pledged to him now are getting sketchy about him because of what's happened since he won the primary. Like some of the South Carolina delegates apparently are saying, hold on a second, I'm a woman, he's saying these things, I'm not sure I'm going to vote for him at the convention. And if he doesn't get to 1237, all bets are off.
But then it brings up a lot of ethical questions about the Electoral College and are we really a democracy? And, it's tough.
Yeah.
As much as I want that to happen and him to be overruled by the delegates, I don't feel super comfortable that the citizens are being overruled.
Well, but even if every delegate that he's earned votes for him, it's still unlikely. I mean, Cruz is way up in Wisconsin. Yeah. My gut is that Trump is starting to lose ground. I think that's what's happening. He said it last night. Anderson said, "Who's treating you unfairly?" And he said, "The RNC, the Republican National Convention Committee convention." I was getting mixed up, but and so I think behind closed doors, he's not going to get to 1237, and once that happens. Governors, senators, House members, superdelegates, I mean, he is losing ground in my view. I know some of you disagree. We have a lot of comments popping up on there.
I know.
We need to find a way to answer some of those questions.
I know, right? Okay, one last topic before we close. Bernie swept 3 states on Saturday night, and the media barely mentioned it. And so now there's this whole, idea that the media is having a blackout when it comes to Bernie Sanders. Why would that be? Do you think? What's that about?
And there's a lot being said about the media being responsible for Trump because it's such a great story. They're making so much money off of him. Mm-hmm. Shirley Clinton is way more sexy and sizzly to networks and established amongst those powers than Bernie. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not into conspiracy theories, but she's a much more exciting story for sure.
So you think they're just not covering it because he's boring and it's not that exciting, or?
I mean, they want Hillary Trump for financial reasons, but to what extent they're, excluding?
It's interesting.
It's such a massive story, though. I mean, he's tied with her on a national.
It's a massive story.
National level.
It was a big upset.
Yeah.
That day was a big upset.
How do you feel about it? I mean, you're for Sanders.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't totally get it. I'm trying to figure out what would be in it for major news networks to not cover this. And if there's, I don't know. I don't have an answer. Yeah. Everyone can leave comments and tell me what the answer is.
Well, without a question, though, even in our world here, it's so easy to talk about the Republican contest. Yeah. It's so easy to talk about Donald Trump. Just today,
You're right.
What he said. And Sanders.
Yeah, that's true.
Sanders won Hawaii and Alaska and whatever.
There's nothing salacious. That's true.
But again, that is part of the issue. We've become so salacious in this period, unlike any time in our history. And I almost want to wake up. I almost feel like I want to wake up and it's just a bad dream. Like, we did not go to this low level of banning a whole 1.6 million Muslims and the Mexicans, and it's just
You would think that someone who would say things like that publicly would be run out of the country and not voted for.
Well, there used to be this thing people called a political gaffe. Remember those things?
Yeah.
Like, you say something, like John Kerry at one point said something about Vietnam veterans or Vietnamese, and he was done. Trump is a gaffe.
Yeah.
Every day he's a gaffe. He says things that are completely untrue, completely inflammatory, racist. He is a gaffe, but it's almost his followers like rub their hands together and think, wow, you really told it like it was. I love that you're telling the truth.
Totally. They think he's brave and bold.
I don't think he is.
No. All right, what do we have coming up?
So we have primaries next week.
Okay.
I always get them mixed up.
I do too.
I know we have Wisconsin coming up. Sanders is ahead in Wisconsin. Cruz is ahead in Wisconsin. Cruz seems like he's getting steam to me.
Yeah. Well, now that it's more narrowed down.
Yeah, now that it's more narrowed down. Trump won't debate. He won't debate these people anymore. So he's relying on these scandals, gates.
All right, well, hit us up with the comments and what you guys think about all that we talked about. This will be posted to both of our blogs shortly, and we will be back next week.
See you then.